Will versus trust. It's one of those topics a lot of us hear about, but it can feel, well, pretty confusing. So today we're going to cut through all that noise and make it really simple. Okay, let's get into it. So, what is the real difference between a will and a trust? It's so easy to think they're kind of the same thing, but honestly, they work in completely different ways. And we're about to see just how different they are. And look, understanding that difference is absolutely crucial because it could literally save your family from a world of stress, frustrating delays, and a ton of unnecessary costs. We're going to break it all down in simple terms. No confusing legal jargon, I promise. Just clarity. All right, let's start with the one most of us have heard of, the will. It's a good idea to think of this as the foundation, the starting point for any good plan. So at its core, a will is a legal document that lays out your final instructions. It says who gets your stuff, and this is a big one. If you have young kids, it names who you want to be their guardian. It also picks someone to be the executor, the person who handles everything. But here's the key. A will only kicks in after you pass away. Now here's the catch. There's one critical detail about wills that most people just don't know, and honestly, it can change everything for the family that's left behind. And that catch has a name. Probate. Even if you have a perfect, ironclad will, your estate still has to go through this formal court process. There's no way around it. So what on earth is probate? Well, it's the official court process where a judge validates your will, makes sure any debts are paid, and then finally oversees the distribution of your assets. The thing is, this whole process is a public record. It can get expensive, and it's almost never fast. We're talking months and sometimes, well over a year. And when you look at the steps, you can see why it takes so long. You have to file the will with the court. Then you have to legally notify every possible heir. Then you have to settle up with creditors. And only after all of that is done can your family actually receive anything. You can just imagine the delays and the stress this can cause. So if you remember one thing about a will, let it be this. A will is basically a set of instructions you're leaving for the court. It gives the court direction, but it doesn't get you out of the court process itself. Okay, so if a will has to operate inside the court system, what's the alternative? Well, that brings us to the trust, which is designed from the ground up to work outside of it. It's a completely private alternative. A trust is a totally different kind of tool. It's more like a legal container that you create to hold the title to your assets. You then name a trustee, which is usually you at first, to manage everything for your beneficiaries. And right here, this is the absolute game changer. When a trust is set up correctly and your assets are officially put into it, that's called funding, it can bypass the entire probate court process completely. So why is avoiding probate such a big deal? Well, it means your assets get to your loved ones so much faster. The whole thing stays private and confidential, not a public court document for anyone to see. There's way less court involvement, which means way less stress for your family. And here's a huge bonus. A trust can also protect you if you ever become sick or incapacitated, not just after you're gone. So the best way to think about a trust is this. It's not instructions for the court. It's a private management system that you create for your own estate. It puts you and your family in the driver's seat. Okay, so we've looked at them one by one. Now let's put them right next to each other. This is where the differences really pop. And the right choice for you starts to become crystal clear. This chart just sums it all up perfectly, doesn't it? A will gives instructions to the court. A trust is your own private management system. A will has to go through probate. A trust is designed to avoid it. A will becomes a public record. A trust stays private. And a really big one, a will only works after you die, but a trust starts working the moment you create it. So which one is right for you? Well, the honest answer is it really depends. This isn't about one being better than the other for everyone. The best choice is all about your specific assets, your family, and what your goals are. In fact, a lot of the time they actually work together in a complete plan. And that really brings us to the most important part of this whole conversation. Let's step back from all the technical stuff for a minute and talk about the real why. The reason we're even thinking about this stuff in the first place. I want you to just read that and let it sink in for a second. It's so true. When families have conflict during these tough times, it's almost never because they don't love each other. It's because they're confused, they're stressed, and there was no clear plan left for them to follow. Here is probably the simplest way to remember how they're different. A will gives your family crucial direction, especially on something like guardianship, but a trust gives your family control by keeping things private and out of court. Both are just tools to create that clear plan. Because at the end of the day,
The goal isn't just to check a box and say, yep, got my documents. It is so much more meaningful than a stack of papers.
The real goal, the whole point of doing any of this, is to wrap a layer of protection around the people you love. It's an act of care designed to shield them from confusion, public court battles, and all that stress during what's already one of the hardest times of their lives. So let's reframe how we think about this, right? This kind of planning isn't really about death at all. It's about life. It's about taking thoughtful, proactive steps today to make sure you're protecting your family's future tomorrow.